Deborah had to have surgery.
I had hip surgery in November of 2024.
Her United Healthcare nurse, Crystal, checked on her.
We do a routine call after surgery, and I could tell that she was struggling.
Deborah needed help.
My infection markers were through the roof.
And Crystal knew what to do.
I called the hospital and said she's coming in.
And got Deborah the help she needed.
Crystal and United Healthcare saved my life.
Hear more stories like Deborah's at uhc.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan area. Limitation and exclusions apply.
You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey everyone, I am so excited because I have Jasmine Beard on the line. Now, if that name sounds familiar, this is one of my very, very, very good friends, personally and business-wise, and she is the owner of A Joy Consulting. She's been on the podcast before, which I'll be sure to link to that episode. But hey, Jasmine, how are you today?
Great rising, Tiffany. I am grateful and doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So we're here to talk about why cross-industry collaboration as a business owner is important, and then how people can go about doing that. So tell us a little bit about what is cross-industry collaboration.
So cross-industry collaboration is basically where you're leveraging your expertise and skill sets across multiple industries or multiple verticals. And there are a multitude of benefits with that. For example, one of the things that I do is whenever, as a strategic consultant, the people that we work with, we often they span different industries. And basically, let's say, for instance, I have a colleague that works in the energy sector. By me gaining expertise in that particular sector, I can use some best practices from their knowledge base, their expertise to leverage in another industry that I work with, let's say potentially healthcare, especially as they're working to be more sustainable, use less paper, and reduce their carbon footprint, if you will. And so cross-industry collaboration is basically leveraging your expertise and leveraging best practices from different industries that may or may not have a lot of parallels, but you can still leverage the benefits of those, their best practices or some industry policies that will be beneficial to your line of business.
Ah, gotcha. So when you're saying cross-industry collaboration, it's learning from other business owners that may not do exactly what you do, but some of their practices and stuff can translate over to what you do. And that makes complete sense because, for instance, look at us, right? You're a strategic consultant. Sometimes we have conversations and I'm like, oh, I could use that strategy. Like, if you're talking about things that you've done for clients, I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds good. Oh, yeah, that sounds great. Or vice versa, if I'm talking about, situations that me and my clients have gone through, you might be like, oh, I can use some of that financial stuff. So I definitely see how this cross-industry collaboration thing could work. Now, if someone's listening and they're like, but Jazz, I am only connected to people in my industry. I go to all the conferences and things like that, but I don't even know where to start when it comes to looking at other industries. Let's take your healthcare example, right? So if someone's in healthcare, but maybe somebody in manufacturing might have some good strategies that they can use. So how do you start branching out to these different industries and kind of get outside your bubble?
One of the first things is identify what skills and expertise you have that can transcend across various industries. So strategic consultant, pretty much any industry can leverage that with our talent optimization and helping executives leverage self-awareness to achieve expansion and growth by building high-performing teams. Anybody who has a team of people or managing people can leverage that skill set. And I'm just leveraging us for example, right? So if we're working with, let's say, a manufacturing company, they are very people dependent because they have to run the machines and so forth. And that's a high, right now, that's the industry that has a high employment gap. But if we want to transition into healthcare, our strategic planning helps, but also in healthcare, you're dealing with people and you're serving people. So they're not building machines, but that talent optimization or the self-awareness piece is important. I'm sure we all can relate to how sometimes you've gone to a doctor's office or you've gone to a hospital and you've worked with a team of medical personnel that may or may not have been very favorable, or you can see that the cultural and the organizational culture or the morale is not very positive based on how the staff is behaving with each other and how they're engaging with the patients. So one is leveraging your transferable expertise and knowing that and finding ways that you can serve someone in a new industry. Also looking at what similar pain points they have from the customers that you or clients that you're traditionally used to serving. Then you want to reframe some of your case studies and success stories using some of the language and metrics that matter in that sector. So let's say, if you're customer service, that's in all industries. Everybody's got somebody they need to call when there's a problem. So the service level agreement for a manufacturing company might look different than that of a healthcare, but they both have a metric that they have to measure, a metric that they have to keep up with on how well and how effective are they solving problems that their clients or their patients encounter. And just those two words alone. In one industry, it's a client. Another industry, it's a patient, and another industry is called a customer or a consumer. So just knowing the interchangeable languages across industries, that's a big advantage. And then also researching the industry's DNA. What are some of their trends? What are some regulatory environments? We're transitioning into the energy sector. We have to be mindful of, if you're working with a nonprofit organization or you're working with an industry that's not as heavily regulated, when you're getting into energy and other sectors or even healthcare, there's a lot more policies and compliance, metrics that you have to be mindful of. Looking at some of the major players, what are some of the competitive pressures that they have, and then also looking at what are their priorities. As a customer experience management professional, you want to stay as customer centric as possible. So yes, know what skills we have and value we bring to the client, but you also want to understand what are their priorities, and then how does that align with your capabilities?
Yeah, those are really good points. And I just wanted to pause real quick because you said something so profound that I never even thought about. And that was tweaking your case studies to the client. So it's kind of similar to when you tweak your cover letter for a job, right? But I never thought about tweaking your case studies. So let's say you did something for someone in a different industry, but their metrics and stuff is not the same as the industry that you're looking to get into. So tweaking those case study metrics, I think that's golden right there. I mean, you said a lot of good stuff, but that right there really stuck out to me because I think as business owners, we don't really think that far. Somebody's like, oh, do you have any case studies? You're like, oh, go to my website, or, oh, yeah, here's a link, or, oh, I'll send over a few, but not really tweaking it to that customer. So I just wanted to emphasize that part real quick.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right. And we'll, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little later on, why that's important to join us on September the 12th. And so another way is building targeted relationships, the industry associations, attending some of the conferences that you wouldn't normally attend in your typical industry, because then when you're interacting with people at these conferences, once you make that first one or two genuine connections, y'all have a deep dive, you just in conversation alone, you start to learn about what's important to them in their industry. And then you start to understand, how does this transcend to where I'm already operating? And then it's like when you talk to, as you're raising a child, you talk to children, they learn from us through dialogue and engagement. That's how we learn in business. You start to learn the industry vernacular or jargon and, kind of like the lay of the land by talking to more people in the industry and joining an industry association or going to a conference is a great way to break into it, because you're like a kid in a candy store. It's like everything's new. Your brain is refreshed. You're not on autopilot. So now you're expanding your horizons at that point. Having informational conversations just to learn, not necessarily sell or pitch what you do, just having 30-minute conversations. And sometimes you'll be surprised at how quickly someone will say, you know what? I think that's a unique perspective that we can use in our organization. That's literally how I was able to connect with, a energy prospect. He stated, we need some self-awareness in our organization. I would love to get this going for my executive team because we're looking to grow really soon. And we want to make sure we establish a proper company culture. And as well as in hospitality. Right now, we're onboarding a hospitality client, and they're getting ready to purchase more properties. And they said, before we grow anymore, we want to make sure we have our company culture established. So again, hospitality and industry, two different verticals, but they both still need the same need of being able to establish a desirable company culture because they both depend on people. Strategic alliances are important. Partnering with an established company or a consultant in your particular industry or in a different industry to co-deliver on projects. Tiffany, we're very much the same in our love for collaboration. We love collaboration because we understand the benefits of that, and just the joy you feel in collectively achieving something together. Like that just brings not only so much value to each other, but the client themselves. It gives you instant credibility just through association as well. And just, I like to think about the acronym TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. So that strategic alliance is very high value.
Deborah had to have surgery.
I had hip surgery in November of 2024.
Her United Healthcare nurse, Crystal, checked on her.
We do a routine call after surgery, and I could tell that she was struggling.
Deborah needed help.
My infection markers were through the roof.
And Crystal knew what to do.
I called the hospital and said she's coming in.
And got Deborah the help she needed.
Crystal and United Healthcare saved my life.
Hear more stories like Deborah's at uhc.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan area. Limitation and exclusions apply.
And I'll share a quick example. I was working on a project a few years ago establishing governance for a particular a national or global nonprofit, actually. However, there were 3 other consultants. They had different expertise and scopes of ours, but some of the information that we were going to do in our interview would serve as beneficial to them. So I took the initiative. I said, hey, our team is going to be doing interviews with them, and being mindful of the customer and client experience. I asked them, I said, would you all be open to us interviewing the core partners together? And they were kind of surprised. They said, we don't work on many projects where a lot of consultants are willing to collaborate. That would be phenomenal. I said, I'm more than happy. We're aiming towards the same goal. We're serving the same client. And again, together, everyone achieves more. It's going to decline the client experience if we're pulling on their time and having potentially redundant interviews or meetings when we could do it all in one meeting. You ask your questions, we ask ours, because there's perspectives that we might have that you all might not have thought of, and vice versa. And it was very, very beneficial to all parties involved. And the client was a lot more pleased because we were mindful about respecting and valuing their time, but also being able to collaborate together versus seeing each other as competition or being territorial. That serves no one. And then also just creating visible value, publishing thought leadership content, case studies, again, after you've tweaked them for that particular industry, and doing some micro research that, that highlight those industry challenges and what have you done that are aligned with some of those challenges, so that when they do consume your content, they understand and see a clear path as to how you can help their organization. And one of the ways is, definitely doing what I'm doing now, speaking in panels, webinars, and like today, being on a podcast in an industry that's, that you're trying to transcend into. So I'll pause there.
Yes, Jazz. I love how you say that. And it just reminded me of a co-delivery that I've done with someone before. They were in the wellness industry. So speaking of like health and, eating and exercising, things like that. And they offered a service to corporations where they have their employees go through a program. And when I was telling them about what I did, they were like, oh, I never thought about the financial health. Let's partner. And so that is what we did. And we co-delivered where we're not just focusing on the employee's physical health, but now we're also focusing on their financial health as well. And it went well. So we talked about the what and we talked about the why. Let's talk about the how. So if someone's listening and they're like, okay, Jazz, I hear you. I understand why it's important. How do I start looking for these cross-collaboration partnerships? I know you mentioned conferences, but where do we even start?
So again, looking at your expertise. Also, because again, as we say, it's a joy doing business. Look at what industries you enjoy most, because that's important. Business is challenging enough, but it should also be a joy to do. So looking at what industries interest you, what industries are growing that have the most opportunity, and then also looking at, where are some areas in which your expertise is highly needed, So yes, the conferences, the informational interviews are going to be critical because these are people who are living, breathing, working in that industry every day. LinkedIn, we all say, is a gold mine. Look at some of the companies that you would want to work with. And so sometimes a lot of companies do have their own events for supplier engagement or just customer or client appreciation, things of that sort. So trying to get into, making yourself known, introducing yourself to, let's see, who's responsible for planning those events. Supplier engagement professionals are another highly valuable contact that you can connect with. Sometimes, even recruiters, right? Because they are looking at these different job descriptions and functions every day, even if they are not in the role themselves, but they do have a very holistic view of what problems or challenges that the organization or the company is having, because they're hiring people to solve these problems or to address them, right? So I would say, looking at your expertise, the conferences and associations, but, interview with supplier engagement professionals. Hey, what type of requests are you all having for, suppliers, or what issues are you seeing in your current suppliers? That's another critical question to ask. What gaps do you all have based on the work that you do with your current suppliers? Where are some ways that you see opportunity for improvement? And then ask, do you have any tier 1 suppliers that we could talk to or potentially partner with? I think there's a lot of value in partnering with tier 1 suppliers because they have a good firsthand knowledge of what it's like to engage with some of the larger organizations, or just industry knowledge as well, that they can share, and you both can add mutual value to them, and they can give you a different perspective on, this is how this company can leverage your expertise. Let's partner. And then that, again, it expands the mutual value instantly to the end client. So again, the informational conversations with people in the industry, the people that are responsible for hiring, and the supplier engagement, because they touch a lot of different areas of the business. And then some organizations, you want to be mindful, they will have more than one supplier engagement professional, because the larger the organization, they may have one that's for leadership and development, one for engineering, one for research, and another one for, let's say, customer experience, or the business side, or sales. So, or even training, right? So those are some of the immediate ways you can start transcending into a new industry and making those new contacts, and setting a solid foundation for cross-industry collaboration.
Deborah had to have surgery.
I had hip surgery in November of 2024.
Her United Healthcare nurse, Crystal, checked on her.
We do a routine call after surgery, and I could tell that she was struggling.
Deborah needed help,
My infection markers were through the roof.
and Crystal knew what to do
I called the hospital and said she's coming in.
and got Deborah the help she needed.
Crystal and United Healthcare saved my life.
Hear more stories like Deborah's at uhc.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan area. Limitation and exclusions apply.
Yes, and you mentioned something about something happening in September. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, ma'am. So we are celebrating 7 years doing business. We are beyond grateful. And so on September the 12th, we are hosting our first annual event. It's called It's a Joy Doing Business. And the original impetus for this is we know that the climate that we're in right now is very volatile. It's uncertain, tumultuous, and business, again, just like life, business is challenging, but it's still a joy to do business, especially if you are a founder, a small business owner, small business leader, definitely. But when you have founded a company and you're in the process of growing it, it does get hard. You do feel like you're doing things alone and you can be in a silo, but it's still, business can still be fun while experiencing certain challenges. And that's what really motivates people to keep going during the toughest times, whether you're in a company of 3 to 5 people or in a company of 2 to 10,000. And so we enjoy being facilitators of strategic partnerships and genuine connections. So this event is for us to do what we find a joy in doing, is connecting people and helping them align with new opportunities that have not always been on their radar, so that whether you're a corporate buyer or a supplier engagement professional and you're looking to, keep your supplier pipeline fresh, if you are a small business owner, entrepreneur, established or new, or even aspiring, this is a great place to be to, again, expand your horizons around, okay, what industries have I not looked at yet? How have I allowed my scope how in what ways has my scope become a little bit stale, or have I tunnel visioned my business or my skill sets? Let me look into the film industry. We'll have a Hollywood Emmy Award-winning actor, Mr. Mike Ray Anderson, who will be on our panel and share more about how can you get into the film industry outside of being on the screen or behind the camera. There are lots of opportunities that we may not always know about, whether by design or just by happenstance, that he'll share for those that will be in the room. There will be also so then we'll have some other panelists. My ASL teacher rocks. She'll talk about missed opportunities in the deaf and hard of hearing community, whether you're looking at it from a client perspective or a compliance perspective. There are some policies that are coming in the pipeline that from the federal government as it relates to accessibility. So how are you missing out on prospect clients and customers because we have business owners that are deaf and hard of hearing? How are you connecting with them? How are you serving them? How are you being more accessible in your client base or in your business practices? So that's just a preview. And then the night before, and let me back up. That event will be on Friday, September the 12th in Greensboro, North Carolina. It will be a nationally attended event from 8:30 in the morning to 3 p.m. And there will be a empowerment panel that morning, and it will be a dynamic representation of the small business ecosystem. So we'll have funders on there from the Institute or their division of ICAP. We'll have PINC, which is Partners in Equity. We're excited to hear more about how they get creative in helping entrepreneurs achieve funding goals for their business ideas or for purchasing a brick and mortar. We'll also have Walkstar there. Walkstar, I was a graduate of their cohort, and they will talk about, they'll be there in support to share more how they teach small businesses to think like investors. I think this is a great value add to any business owner whether you're seeking capital or serving clients like myself that are seeking capital. So how do you best prepare them to ensure that they're prepared, they understand the mindset of investors, and then that they are aligning themselves and their business to prepare to do business with investors or interact and engage with them. And then after that, there will be a catered lunch. And then the last 2 hours from 1 to 3 p.m. will be dedicated solely to the just networking. You know, a lot of conferences or events, and this is not necessarily a conference, it's more of a celebration, but also a catalyst to foster genuine connections. Some people say, you know, well, I go to these conferences, but it's hard to connect with people because you're in workshops all day and you can't talk while you're in a workshop. So we believe in immediate feedback and, again, being customer centric and really acting on closing the loop in real time. We dedicated the last 2 hours to just straight networking, and technically 3 because lunch starts at about 11:45, 12. So you'll have plenty of time to make some really, really good, genuine connections and have some conversations and dialogue to go deep versus wide. And that's really where the magic happens. So and the night before, we will have a meet and greet with Mr. Mike Ray Anderson and also our esteemed sponsors and strategic partners as well. And we talked about, you know, the cross-industry collaboration. I am elated to talk about, you know, to experience that cross-industry collaboration because there is a team of small business owners and entrepreneurs that are in alignment with a Joy Consultant and myself and believe in community and abundance. And we have you know, partnered together to bring this experience to you all. So yes, it's our celebration, but we definitely understand the value in team and strategic alliance and partnerships. And we're also partnering with CVMSDC, which is Carolinas, Virginia Minority Supplier Development Council. And they help also foster relationships between small businesses and corporate buyers and corporate organizations to expand and increase the, the revenue and business opportunities in the MBE community. So they will be there, and this will serve as their official regional interest needs group as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I'll be sure to have all these links in the show notes for our audience. So thank you so much, Jazz, for coming on the podcast today. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Tiffany. It's a joy to be here.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.
Heather is a nurse practitioner from United Healthcare.
We meet patients wherever they live.
During a house call, she found Jack had an issue.
Jack's blood pressure was dangerously high.
It was 217 over 110.
So they got Jack to the hospital and got him the help he needed.
He had had a stent placed in his heart, preventing a massive heart attack.
If it wasn't for my guardian angel, I wouldn't be here.
Hear more stories like Jack's at unitedhealthcare.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan, area, limitation, and exclusions apply.